Imagine that salvation is not something you have to search for all your life. That it is not waiting at the end of your journey, but has been with you from the beginning. Hidden in the silence, in the present moment, in the ability to be aware without struggle, without effort. In today's deeply personal narrative, I share with you an experience that changed my perspective on suffering, healing, and grace forever. I've shared moments when anger turned to sickness, but also moments when simple humility opened the door to healing of the soul. If you are interested in how consciousness, the law of cause and effect, and the power of love interconnect in everyday life, stay with me. This is the path of silence, the path to true salvation. I used to believe that salvation was something that happened out there somewhere in the temple, in a prayer said at the right time, in an answer that would come from heaven like a light piercing the darkness. Today I know that salvation is not an event. It is a state. It is a quiet inner space where nothing has to happen because everything has already happened. It is a silence, an awareness, and a grace that comes on its own if I don't resist it. My life has taught me the hard way. Not through words, but through consequences. When I was younger, I slept in anger like a warm blanket. I felt protected. When I screamed, I felt strong. When I knocked someone down with words, I felt victorious. But the body remembers the truth, not the illusion. I started to get sick. Headaches, fatigue, insomnia. The doctors found nothing, but the soul was calling. Not for punishment, but for conversion. To return to the truth. One night, in the middle of winter, when the pain in my chest could not be suppressed, I sat down and just sat quietly. Not because I wanted to meditate. I just couldn't fight anymore. And in that silence, for the first time, I heard nothing. But in that nothing was everything. There was a space without thought, without judgment, without anger. And in that space, without any effort, came the first drop of grace. A warmth that didn't spread from the outside, but came from within. It was as if for a moment I remembered who I was before all the blows, words, and opinions. I was just a presence, a consciousness. From that moment on, I began to understand that silence is not emptiness. It is a gateway, not the silence of fatigue or surrender, but the silence of awareness observing without fear. And that salvation comes not like lightning, but like dew. Slowly, gently, almost imperceptibly. The more I stopped wanting, the more I got. But only when I didn't feel overwhelmed by it all. I remember one day when I was visited by a friend with whom I had a long strained relationship. He was a man who had once wronged me, and in my pride I vowed never to forget him. When he came, something inside me clenched. The ego wanted to keep its distance, its criticism, its position of moral superiority. But at the same time, I felt that once I succumbed, I would lose the key. So instead I just felt him, myself, the space between us. I didn't judge. I was just being. I spoke simply, listened attentively. And suddenly something unexpected happened. He started to cry. He said he'd been racked with remorse for years, but never found the courage to apologize. And I knew another gate had just opened. Not because of my will, but because I didn't get in the way. It's written, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." I didn't understand before why the silent ones. Now I do. Because the quiet man hears the voice of the soul. Not because he is weak, but because he has opened himself to a power that transcends struggle. In silence, the need to be right, to be the best, to control. And in that, karma, which binds us like an invisible chain, disappears. The emotions that used to destroy us, resentment, pride, fear, dissolve in the present unless we feed them. If we accept them like children who have lost direction. I once prayed, not for the situation to change, but to be able to perceive its meaning. And then I understood that any pain that came to me was not punishment, but healing. Every person who betrayed me was a mirror of my own pride. Every illness was a cry for a return to love. One day, while working in the garden, I noticed a tiny flower growing in a crack between the stones. No one had planted it there. No one had watered it. And yet it was alive. He didn't ask why. It didn't ask for recognition. He just was. And that's when I realized it was grace. Life that flows where we don't resist it. When I stop asking why this is happening to me and start seeing what wants to happen through it, a new perspective opens up. And with it, salvation not as salvation, but as a return home. But the greatest transformation of my life did not come in any external event. It came when I was able to say, I don't know. When I admitted that I had no idea what was best for me, and instead of planning, I started listening. When pain comes, I don't reject it. If joy comes, I don't cling to it. I know that both are just a movement of energy. The important thing is whether I remain conscious. One of the subtlest but most effective keys is humility. Not humiliation, but the recognition that I can do nothing on my own. That true power comes only when I surrender my own power. When I surrender control, not to chance, but to an order that is wiser than I am. When I do that, even problems dissolve, relationships harmonize, the body heals. It's not magic. It's the law of cause and effect. When we reap peace, we reap peace. When we reap judgment, we reap loneliness. But it all starts within. The world is not our adversary, but our mirror. And what I see in it tells me what's in me. Today I no longer seek salvation. I'm learning to perceive salvation. In every breath, in gratitude for ordinary things, in the ability to be. Silence is not an escape from the world. It's a return to what never left. Consciousness is not just the ability to think. It's a light that shines even where it's dark. And grace? It comes when we completely let go of the self. We don't lose it. On the contrary, only then do we know ourselves. If I can pass on one thing that I didn't read but sensed, it's this. Salvation is not in the future. It is present in every moment I allow myself to be in silence. When I let go of the need to understand, to explain, to control. When I open myself to what is right now with gratitude, humility, and unconditional love. Because, where there is spirit, there is freedom. And where there is freedom, there is grace. And if this narrative appeals to you, then you may also be asking yourself, what if salvation is not far away? What if it's here, in the silence between two thoughts, the moment I stop fighting and just start being? I am not telling you what to believe. I am only inviting you to stop. Be quiet. Listen to what is underneath the noise of the world in your own mind. Right there may be an answer waiting that cannot be spoken, only experienced. If you feel this journey is meaningful to you, I'd love it if you would like to give the video a like, or pass it on to someone who might hear what I've shared today. And if you'd like to continue your search for depth, truth, and inner peace, be sure to subscribe. Thank you for your attention, and may the silence guide you.